I'm going to get right into it. My problem statement is drivers and riders are becoming increasingly concerned for their safety due to the vulnerabilities of ride-sharing services. The concept of summoning a ride from your smartphone is fast and convenient, but it poses significant security risks to riders and drivers each time. Drivers are matched with riders and with only a vague rating system available to use as a character reference. So, with that, my how might we improve safety among ride-sharing drivers and passengers? What's that? Oh, my bad. Okay. All right, sorry about that. So my hypothesis is we believe that we can provide an extra layer of protection for riders and drivers by recording each trip using existing front and rear cameras on their mobile phones. I'm of the opinion that the mutual knowledge of these recordings might discourage bad behavior. I was going to say something else, but let's just leave it at that. My target users are Uber drivers who are concerned about their safety. So we're going to talk briefly about the competitors, the design process, my solution, summary, next step, and key insights. So for the competition, I looked at Uber and Lyft. They're both fast and convenient. They have a large driver network. They allow you to set your own schedule, and you can drive at any time. Uber just recently came up with a Share My Trip feature, which tells me that they're thinking about safety and they're trying to do something about it. On the rider side, they're both attractive in pricing and reliable. But you do get a false sense of security and not enough passenger information for the person that you're going to pick up. One of the other things I heard from the drivers is that the pay is really low. So for this section of the research, instead of doing surveys, I wanted to do more of a qualitative research process. So I actually went to one of the locations where Uber drivers hang out in Fort Lauderdale, and they all park up in an area, and I started knocking on windows and interviewing people. So this is what I found out. 85% of the people feel uncomfortable driving at night. So that was a little bit vague for me in the beginning, so I continued to ask why, and it came out that some are uneasy, some say the crazies come out at night, they don't like doing that kind of things. And then when I talked to more people, I discovered that 47% of them drive more hours at night than they do in the day. So another key insight is 57% of drivers said that they were interested in or going to install a camera, in case anything happens. Because if something happens and it's just your word against your passengers, you're in a kind of a bad spot. Even just if you have to go to court, the legal fees and everything, that's not going to work out well. So the user voice. Some of the things my users were saying: I don't drive at night, too many crazies. I wish there was a button to press in the event of an emergency. I feel unsafe on long trips. I need proof in case something happens. We never know who we're picking up. It's a big risk every time. So from that research, I derived my persona, Patrick. Patrick is a single dad, drives Uber full-time, and he needs proof if something happens, because if he gets canceled, and Patrick, by the way, used to drive for Lyft, and he got into a minor fender bender, and his account got canceled. So that's one, revenue stream that got canceled for him. So he's really, really careful, and he was one that said that he wants to install a camera. So another one was I would like a quick way to get help in an emergency. So some of the things Patrick does not like is the idea of picking up strangers, but he needs the money, so he does it anyway. He feels like he's on his own if there's an incident, and he's also frustrated with Uber navigation. So from the research, I try to focus on safety, and I do think navigation is a big part of safety, because what some of the users were doing is, because Uber navigation sucks so bad, they switch back and forth between Waze and Google Maps. So they open Uber, they get a request, and then they switch back to Waze or Google Maps, all while they're driving and trying to figure out where their passenger is going and interact with the information in Uber and interacting with the information with Google Maps. So some of the proposed features, it's a very lean list, was to record the trip sessions so we could have evidence if there's an event, digital panic button, and location tracking. So I look back at the research and I prioritized that, and we ended up with just recording trip sessions and digital panic button being the main stuff that we must have, and then should have the point out rider, meaning that when you pull up to a location, you don't exactly know where the rider is, where they're coming from, so some sort of indication would be great. Location tracking I mentioned before, and glanceable rider info. So when you get a request with Uber, it pops up, it flashes, and sometimes it's like 3 to 5 seconds and it goes away. So you have a very limited amount of time to engage, or you don't even see anything. You just see, okay, this person has 4.5 stars, and then go. So that's not enough time to make a decision. And also, when you think about the business side of that, they don't want riders discriminating. They don't want them picking and choosing, cherry picking trips, because it's going to affect their business model and how their program works. So a lot of people mention having voice commands and stuff like that for when they're driving. I left that for next steps because it was going to be too much to I would have to do additional research to find out what would you want to do as a voice command, etc. Video support, that if you call in the event of emergency, so you get somebody giving visual feedback, or somebody seeing what's going on inside the car. But who is this person going to be? So some questions that came out of that. So I put those to won't have. So my MVP features are recording trips, navigating using Google Maps without having to switch between, and a one-touch emergency button to connect to 911. So with Keen, you're never alone, because once you activate the app, it's going to be there. So this was my version 1 prototype. I sketched this, and I did some concept testing with the Uber drivers. The first screen, go ahead. Oh, sorry. The first screen is, accepting, declining, and some of the features we talked about in the first and second screen, turn-by-turn navigation, etc. So they didn't understand what the live button mean. That was a little thing over here in the corner saying live. I meant that to say recording, but they didn't understand. The helpline, they asked me, who's that? The police, etc. What does verified mean? So I was starting with the concept of verifying the user's additional background checking, that kind of thing. And they didn't really understand that. So I made things look a little bit better, and then went out, did some testing again. But I noticed this was really tough to do, since there's no animation, and it's an interactive thing, like it's a map. It's got to be moving. So that was a little bit difficult for them. Similar feedback, confused about buttons and stuff like that. So I removed the voice command, like I mentioned, and I removed the nav bar in navigation mode to give it more real estate to see the map and stuff like that. So now I'm going to go into my prototype, since I'm running out of time here. All right, so we log in, and then once you get there, this is the empty state. There's nothing going on, so you got to go online first. And once you go online, okay, a request comes in. The interface is very similar to Uber, since they're accustomed to that. So once you get that, you get a request, and then, okay, we're picking up Katie, and she's at the Brickell City Center. We're gonna go, okay, so it tells you which side of the street she's on. All right, we pick her up, and then we pick her up. So once you pick her up, it starts recording automatically. And the front camera, the interior camera here, and then the road here on the side. And you have your turn-by-turn navigation that flashes and then goes away when you don't need it. And then, okay, we drop her off. It tells you where a location is. You don't have to figure out which side of the road it is, and then you go from there. That's pretty much it. And I also have this panic button I was talking about to connect you with 911 as a confirmation. Then once you go there, and I also have the past recordings here. That's the person we just picked up, Katie, and also some settings and stuff, which will be for next steps to build out. Yeah, that's pretty much it.